What is going on, everybody? Bauer Brown here. Welcome back to the channel, guys, and welcome to another video. Alrighty, so I'm not sure where to start this one. Let me put it out there that this is the second time I am shooting this video. All right, so for a very small handful of you guys who were paying attention last night, you will recognize that this video, well, was released last night. A very small percentage of you guys actually got to see it. Very small, like I can count on two hands, one hand, two hands. The number of people that actually saw it before I went private with it. And let me explain why that is. All right, so the video in itself is going to be about how to add additional textures to your map. All right, now typically, I don't want to say this is something that I would not do a video on, or at least not at this time. What I'm trying to do now is cover things that are new to the editor, right? So things that have changed, things that are different, things that if you've been doing this for a little while, you may not know, right? Or if you're brand new, you don't know. But being brand new, with that being said, you can go back and watch all of the my old FS22 series, and 95 to 98% of that still applies to FS25. All right. So I didn't really want to make videos on things that have already been done before, right? I'm just rehashing the same stuff. So like I said, I'm trying to hit the changes first, and even that I'm behind on things. Really, things aren't getting done fast enough. All right. So anyhow, I can't say that I wouldn't have made it a video on how to add textures, but I probably would have held off at least for a little while. Now, the reason that I decided to make that video is I could not find the layer manager. All right. Now it used to be over here on the right hand side when you clicked on terrain. All right. And you went to your terrain tab in your attributes panel, scroll down here to where reload material. There was a button there that said layer manager. And in FS22, that's how we added, a pop-up box will come up here. And that's how we added, new textures to our map project. All right. Well, in FS25, the button, as you can clearly see, is obviously missing. So for whatever reason, not sure why they would do it, but I figured they just didn't include the layer manager this time. Just it didn't make sense why they wouldn't, but seemed like they didn't, which wasn't a big deal because in FS19 and previous versions, we did it differently. Like we would manually add these things in through the i3D. All right. So that's what the video was on last night, was how to manually add them the old way, the way that we used to do it. Now, thanks to you guys, or at least one of you guys in particular, you know who you are, were nice enough. And I do appreciate when you guys point these things out to me because, I don't know everything. I definitely do not by any stretch of the imagination. And I did not know that if you simply right click on terrain, son of a bitch, there's the layer manager. Ay, ay, ay. Why? That's all I have to say. I mean, it's nice that it's there. I appreciate it, but I never thought to right click on terrain. Never. I don't know if it's my old age, or I don't know if it's I just need more sleep. I mean, I've right click on other things in the scene graph, different transform groups and stuff like that. Maybe I want to collapse them all or expand them all or what have you, but never terrain. Never thought to right click on it. Now, of course, in standing tradition with Giants, there is zero documentation about, things that are new and different, or at least how to use them, things that have changed. Not a zip, zilch, zero. That's usually how it goes. You just need to figure it out, and we rely on each other, to keep ourselves informed of what these changes are. All right, so as it turns out, Bauer is an idiot, and the layer manager it does exist. Go figure. So, like I said, I decided to reshoot the video, or at least the beginning part of it, and I am going to leave the other part of the video intact. All right. So this way you can still learn how to add textures manually if you would like. Now, this is my opinion. Now that adding them manually is faster. All right. But it's not, I don't want to say it's not as easy, because it is easy. Uh, but with the layer manager here, you don't have to leave the Giants editor. You could just, in the middle of your project when you're working, you can just decide to willy nilly come over here, throw in a few textures and keep on working. All right. With adding them manually, you cannot do that. All right. You have to back out. You have to close the Giants editor, add what you want to add, and then get back into the editor, which isn't a huge deal. I mean, there's times where I decide before I even open the editor that I'm going to add some additional textures today. And then I can just go in and do it manually before I even open the editor. And, I got it done in half the time. All right. So for those of you guys who do not know, as I was explaining, this is the layer manager, and you can get to the layer manager, thanks to you guys for pointing this out, by right clicking on terrain, and layer manager is right here. Now, this is a representation of all of the textures that are in our map projects. All right, everything that we are currently using. Now, somewhere along the line, for one reason or another, you may ultimately decide that you would like additional textures. All right. For me, I found out that there was no dirt texture inside the US map, and I wanted dirt. So I added dirt. As you can see here, we have a dirt 1 and dirt 2. Now, I explained this in the second half of the video. That's one thing that had changed is we used to have 4 single textures. And what I mean between single textures and combined textures, if you look over here on the right-hand side on my attributes panel, all right, asphalt is currently there in capital letters. Now, capital letters are combined textures. Now, what a combined texture is they take individual textures, right? And so here you can see well, they're out of order on the bottom here, but you can see this like a gravel 1 and gravel 2. All right, these are individual textures. I can paint with each one of these textures. Let me close this really quickly. All right, so there's gravel 1, and here is gravel 2. Now you have to look closely, and gravel may not be the best choice for this, but if you look closely, they are different. They're different textures. All right, but when you add them together, you get regular gravel. All right. So this is what you get when you add both of those textures together. So that's the difference between an individual texture and a combined texture. Now, as far as our projects and painting and everything that we generally only ever use the combined texture. Right now, there are instances, at least for me personally, where I will use an individual texture, but that's not too common. But there are times when it gets done. All right, so just keep that in mind, that that's the difference between your combined and your individuals. And as far as like a use case, like the ones, the textures that we use in our projects, it's generally the combined textures, everything in capital letters. All right. Like I said, I do suggest you guys go back if you're not familiar with, textures, layer manager, that sort of thing, to go back and watch my video on my FS22 series on adding textures and the layer manager. Okay. So like I said, the thing that's different this year is there are only 2, dirt 1 and dirt 2. So there used to be 4 single textures that made up a combined texture, but this year there's only 2, and it's not. I mean, it's intentional, but it's for however they're doing the textures this year. With the displacement and stuff like that, things are definitely a little bit different, and they cut it down to 2 textures. And it could be a performance thing that you literally cut it in half, right? So you cut 50% of the overhead off of your textures, which, is a savings in performance. All right. So anyhow, right here under base layers, your base layers are all your individual textures. Combined layers, we know what that is now. So here's all your combined layers. All right. And I'm not going to explain how this works because, like I said, we do have a video on this that you can go back and watch if you want to know how the layer manager works. But what is different is overlay layers and combined overlay layers. Now, this is something that I've never done in the past. We could still do this manually, like we have in the past. And you can see what they are when you look at your overlay. Your planted 1, planted 2, plowed, ridge, sown, stubble tillage. All right. So these are kind of like your field states that when your field's down, you can draw over them with one of these harvest ready. You should know what I'm talking about, right? And in the combined, same thing. These are your individuals. These are your combined. Now, in my history of map making, I've never really had a need to add additional overlay layers. Not to say I never would, but so far I haven't. So this is something I've never covered in the past, only because, 1, I've never had the need to do it. And 2, if you do have the need, it's accomplished exactly the same way as adding your base layers, your texture layers. All right. So there's really not much difference there. All right. Now, as far as your base layers, it used to be only the diffuse map, normal map, and the height map. So those three textures uh, is what would make up, or they were the individual components of your individual texture. All right. So diffuse, normal, height map, and it echoes kind of with anything, right? So any of our other, like if you're building a garage or something like that, it's still pretty much the same thing. You would still have those three components, except we would have a specular, which a little bit different. But anyhow, so those three would make it up. This year we have the displacement map, and that's because obviously we added displacement, where you could add like deep tire tracks or ruts and stuff like that inside of your fields. And I'm pretty sure that's what handles that. And as you shoot across the list here, you can see that we have a few additional options here. Let me see if I can expand some of these, which is displacement max height, blend contrast, uh, porosity at 0 roughness, porosity at full roughness. We got firmness, viscosity, firmness wet, color, softness, material ID, AI drive cost. All right, so let's see. It would be the displacement, blend contrast, both of these porosities, firmness, viscosity, and firmness wet are all new this year. Now, as far as what they do, I haven't gotten as far as breaking them down and figuring out exactly what they do. Um, but if you break it down, judging just by the name itself, it should be relatively easy to figure out. Like firmness wet. Well, how firm is it when it's wet? So you get the idea. Viscosity, you can just Google what viscosity is, and that'll give you a pretty good idea of what's going on there. Firmness, same thing. How firm is it? All right, so you get the idea. All right, now with the way this works, and I explain this in the second half of the video, generally overall, like if you look at porosity here or the blend contrast, you're generally okay just sticking with the base game numbers. Like here, it's mostly zero point 0.2 straight down the list. You see some 0.25s here and there, not much changes. Same thing with porosity, it's all 0.9s. Now, with our textures, we are generally going from we're usually taking them out of other base game maps. So if you just stick with the base game numbers, you're okay. Now, if at some point you want to play around with these numbers, start changing them to see what they do, by all means, go ahead. That's how you learn. I may explain more in my previous videos that like I said, I'm going to be doing in this video. And I think like unit size, I think I have a pretty good example of what unit size does in the older videos. AI drive cost, I have an entire video just on AI drive cost alone. That is definitely worth checking out. So you want to go ahead and do that. But that is it. That's all I'm going to do for the layer manager. Cause like I said, it's something for whatever reason, I didn't know that you accessed through right clicking. But it does exist. And that's how we will be adding textures to our, to our map projects. So for those of you guys who are new to this and don't know how this works, definitely by all means, go back and check out my previous videos of how to add textures to your map. I go over the layer manager in full detail. And I will show you everything that you need to know about the layer manager, easy peasy. And then if you want to stick around for the second half of this video, I will show you how to add your texture layers in manually. Alrighty, and I'm going to leave things right there because I don't feel like there's a whole lot more that needs to be said on the layer manager. And with that being said, I'm Bauer Brown, and I will see you on the second half of this video. Alrighty, so as you can plainly see, I am inside of Giants Editor 10.0.3. And what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you how to get textures, like additional textures, into your map project. Okay. Now this has changed from version to version of Farming Simulator, right? So we used to do it one way in Farming Simulator 19, and then they changed it, made it a little bit better for Farming Simulator 22, and then now for Farming Simulator 25. Well, they went back to the way that that we did it in 19. So, is what it is. So I am going to show you the way that we have to do it now. All right. So in 22, all right, if you highlighted the terrain over here in the scene graph, And over in your attributes panel on the right hand side here, right? If you went to terrain, you scroll down. Right where you see this button here where it says reload material, we had something called layer manager. All right. Well, that layer manager, you can click on that button and, it would take you into the layer manager. You can, do what you needed to do from there. Well, I guess for some reason they decided that's not going to work now. Not sure why. Maybe they needed the extra room for this button. No clue. Don't know why. I kind of wish they would bring it back though. It was very helpful. It made things a bit easier. All right, so now we got to do things the hard way, which really isn't that hard. All right, so most of this is, like I said, it's out of necessity, really. I mean, not that you need additional textures, but as you work on your project, it's bound to come up that you feel like you want something different, right, inside of your map, and it's good to have choices. Now, for me, when I say necessity, like you're building a farm, and I'm basing this map on the American map, right? That's what I use for the map project for my blank map. And I noticed that the one thing missing specifically is dirt. There is no dirt texture. So I'm not sure about you, but what kind of farm doesn't have dirt? So it is what it is. All right. So fortunately for us, there are other places where we can go to get these textures. Now, you either need your own texture, which most people really don't have lying around. Sometimes you will find them available on the internet. It depends, but more often than not, we are pulling these textures from the other maps. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go into one of the base game maps because we need to figure out which texture it is that we want. All right, so I'm not going to save that because I really didn't do anything there. I'm going to get myself into, like I said, into one of the base game maps here, into Farming Simulator 25. Let's see. I'm going to go into the Asia map for now, right? So we're going to have a look around in there. Let's open that up and see what kind of textures we have going on. Now, I think for now, just for the sake of the tutorial, I'm not going to be too picky. I'm just going to grab, any old texture that I think looks okay. But ultimately, this really is the best way to do it, right? So find yourself a spot where you can do a little bit of coloring here, a little bit of painting with textures, right? So get yourself a blank spot and highlight your terrain detail texture, right? And then we're just going to go over here. We're just going to start going through some of the textures, right? So here's the dirt that I use, and looks like it's the same dirt that they used on their fields. We have dirt leaf, dirt forest, grass mix. Let's see what looks good. What about rock? I don't have any rock. I guess that looks all right. Kind of. It's hard to tell on top of this texture. But ultimately, like I said, this is what we're going to be doing. All right, so there's a sand. Maybe we'll do a sand. I'm not quite sure. There's a lot of sands in there. My goodness. All right, rock floor tiles. Boy, oh boy. One thing I do like about 25 is personally, I think they have much better textures. Now, I will explain one or two things about these textures when we get there. So keep that in mind because as far as the way the textures are created, some things did change, right? So they're not exactly the way they were. Now, I'd imagine with them redoing the textures, probably why the button's missing because it's just they're done a different way now. Or at least the textures are assembled a different way. Probably no reason they couldn't bring that button back, but we will see. All right, so we got cement cracked. All right, I'm going to pick the cement crack just for the sake of this tutorial. All right, just so we have something that we can work with. Now, keep in mind, if you're inside this base game map here, right, if you're doing like I'm doing and just coloring and, experimenting to see which textures you like the best, do not save your map. Do not save it when you back out of here, okay? That's very, very important that you keep that in mind. All right, so now that I want cement cracked from the Asian map. We can go ahead and we can close down the Giants editor. Now in 22, you kept the editor open because we were using the layer manager to do this, and that is not the case anymore. We will not be using Giants editor to bring these textures in, so we want to close that down. All right, from there, let's get back into well, we'll start with the our project map. All right. Because we're going to open up both. So it doesn't really matter. So go to your project map, right click on the project map on the map.i3D. You want to go to open with Notepad++. All right. So we got that open. All right. Close these because I don't need that. Well, actually, I'll keep that open because I will be using that. All right. So we'll get rid of that. Delete that. And then I have the Asia map. Looks like I already have that open. But what you want to do is also go to the, let's see if I don't have mine open. Also go to the Asia map. Now, this is the base game map. So get yourself over to the base game. Go to Data, Maps, Map AS. And then you want to do the same thing here. You want to right click on that. And you want to open. Oops, I didn't highlight that. So right click, highlight it, and then right click, open with Notepad++. All right. So now you should have your map project open in Notepad, and you should also have whatever map that you're pulling the textures from. Now, what I like to do, and suggest you do this, or it's a recommendation that you do the same, is start yourself a new file here, a blank one. And you can do that just by double clicking on this project bar up here on the toolbar, and that'll start a new file for you there. Just start a blank one. This is going to come in really handy. All right. So now we're going to go to the map AS. And what we're going to do is up here on the very top of the list is where they're listing what all of our files are here, right? Our weight files, all of our texture files, everything is listed up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for cement. All right. And that's popping up in a different window for some reason. All right. So I'm going to search for cement. Okay. So we have cement cracked. That's what I wanted. All right. I believe that is what I wanted. All right. So we're going to take these. We're going to take, it looks like we have two of them right here. We're going to take both cement cracked, highlight them, copy them. Now I'm going to bring them over here to this blank file, right? Ultimately, they are going to end up in our project file, but I like to stick them in this blank file for now, and I'll show you why in just a minute. Oops, I don't want to delete too much there. Okay, so we got our asphalt. Nope. What am I searching for here? Oh, okay, I see it's picking up displacement. I should have match whole word. Match whole word. Only I can't talk today. It doesn't seem to like that. Okay, whatever. Let's just keep going the way I was then. Okay, so here we are with cement cracked again, right? So we should have, there should be more entries for this one, right? So we have a diffuse, displacement, a height, and a normal for each one. So you should have 8 in total, right? So let's grab all of these. Make sure I'm not missing anything here. So we'll copy those. And we'll bring that over to that other file. Okay. Give myself a little bit of room here because we have more stuff that we're going to copy. There's a bit that needs to be copied. I mean, it's not horrible, but there's definitely a bit. All right. So that should be it for those at the top of the list. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for layer ATTR for layer attributes. That's what I'm going to search for just to get myself down there. All right. And you can see where I showed up. All right. Now these layer attributes are the textures themselves. Okay. Now, if you look down, you can kind of see what's going on here. We have like a detail map ID, normal map ID, height map ID. All right. Now these are the actual textures. So we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to go down to cement cracked 1 and 2. Okay. I'm going to grab both of these. Make sure I have them both, which I do. Copy those. Okay. Control V. We're going, ooh, boy, those are long ones. I paste those in there and make ourselves some room here. All right. And then we have a combined layer that we need to copy over. All right. And I'll explain all of this in just 1 minute. Now, most of you guys, I'm sure, have been through the tutorials and you know what the combined layers are, but we'll go over it one more time anyhow. All right, so skip past overlayer. We don't really need overlayer here. We're not worried about that. You want to get down here to where it says combined layer. All right, now once you get the combined layer, we're doing the same thing, and we are looking for cement cracked, and there's only one of them in this instance. Okay, so copy that. All right, and then paste that in there. All right, now really quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay inside the Asia map there, except I'm going to go into the uh, the data folder here. Now, normally I would go into the base game and I would go into the texture folder itself. Yeah, because here's the AI drive cost. If you see it right here, the layer attribute, right? So we have the type is a float, minimum value -1, maximum value of 100. All right, where is it in here? Am I missing it? Unit size, displacement, blend contrast, porosity, firmness, viscosity, firmness. I'm not seeing it. All right, but the drive cost in any event is still associated with this. All right, we'll check once we get into the editor to see if we are missing something inside of there. But you can adjust the drive cost. All right, and these are all if you don't know what some of these mean between the color, softness, and stuff like that. These are the attributes themselves. Go back and watch. I do have in the Farm Sim 22 video on the layer manager and adding additional textures that breaks down what each one of these means. Now, the drive cost specifically, I have an entire video just on the drive cost. So if you don't know what drive cost is, make sure you go back and you watch that video. All right. And you just kind of do your own research there on what drive cost is. It's not an involved subject, like it's not too complicated, uh, but there's definitely a few things that you should know about it, right? To know how it works and to know what what you should be looking for when you're determining what the drive cost is for each one of your textures, because you can change those depending on your map. All right. But overall, like I said, you're pretty safe, or not pretty safe. You are safe if you just stick with the base game numbers. Just copy things over as they are, and everything will be fine, right? You won't have any issues. I just wanted to put that out there that you can change these because there are certain circumstances where you're going to want to change them, right? To suit the needs of your map. It's that simple. All right. So once you have all of that stuff copied over here, right? We're going to start getting this stuff. Now, I know copying it twice doesn't make much sense, but just bear with me here. It's fine. All right, we're going to start copying this over to our project map. All right, so let's go up here to our weight maps. We're going to copy those. All right, now same thing. We're just going to go all the way up to the top of our i3D file here for our map, right under where it says files here. Okay, just hit return, tab yourself over, and we're gonna paste those in there. All right. Now for each one of these, or for both of these, for the file ID, we're going to change those. Okay. And I'm going to change it to 9999. And then below that, we're going to change that to 9998. Now, the reason I'm picking these numbers is what's going to happen is after I open the map and I save it again, uh, the editor is going to reassign file IDs to these weight maps or any of these files that I put in here. It's going to give them its own ID. But for now, I need to give it an ID that it can work with, just a random number, but make it high enough. The number has to be high enough that you're reasonably sure or positively sure that that number is not being used as a file ID anywhere else in your map. So I usually shoot pretty high. So like, 9998, 9997, you get the idea. If you're nervous about it, you can add an extra nine. Not a big deal. Okay. All right. So give yourself a space there. And we have some more files or some more, files that we're going to copy over. Now, each one of these here where it says file in front of it, we want to grab every one of those. All right. I'm going to copy those and back over to our map. And we're going to paste those in there. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to keep going right down the list here. All right. Now we're going to go right up top here and we're going to go in sequential order. So 9997. Next one is 9996, 9995, 9994, 9993, 9992, and 9991. All right, let's get back over to our map here. Now I feel like I'm missing something because my last one that I did, it went all the way down to 0. Am I missing something? I got 2 weight maps. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nope, that should be okay. All right, so we're going to do the same thing inside of our map project here. We're going to click F for find, and we're going to go down to the attribute layer, right? Layer ATTR, find next. And that gets us down to our layers here. Now, same thing here, right underneath where that closing tag is for layer attributes, right? And we're going to give ourselves some room there. And we're going to go and we're going to copy over these 2 layer attributes right here. Okay. Sure, I got them both. Ah, hate this. There we go. Now I got them both. Okay, so we're going to copy that and Control V to paste those in there. Alrighty. Okay, so now we are going to have to change some things on here, but really quick, actually, we can do that now because we don't need to worry about. We have one more thing to copy over, but right now let's worry about our numbers first. All right, so the reason that I had you copy everything over here into its own file is because as we change these numbers, we need to know what we change them to. All right, so first of all, why do I have asphalt 01 and 02? Did I not copy over the right ones? Cement cracked. Oh, duh. I'm on the wrong map. All right. Anyhow, like I said, you're going to need to remember what these numbers were. Right now, where it says detail map ID, that is your diffuse layer. Okay, and the rest of them are self-explanatory. So it makes it a lot easier. So instead of having to scroll all the way up to the top of your map, to figure out what that number was, and then scroll all the way back down to the bottom again. So you had to scroll all the way up here, figure out what the ID was that you gave it, and you have to look here, look there. Instead, and then have to search to get yourself back down to the attribute. Now you just click over to that tab, figure out what it is, and get yourself back to the map. All right, so the detail map ID is the first thing we're going to look for. Cement cracked 1. Okay, so get yourself over here. I probably close that Asia map for now. Keeps confusing me. Let me move these right next to each other. There we go. All right. So what was it? What did I need? I need cement crack 01. I need a detail map ID, which is the diffused. All right. So what you could do if it's confusing you, you can go cracked 1 and crack 2. And you can make a space between there so you know which one is which. All right. So the file ID for that one, or did I not? Oh, you know what? I copied those over the wrong way. I goofed these guys up. I am so sorry. What I did is after I put these over here, I'm so sorry about that. Right? Once I have these copied over here, or once I have the numbers filled in, that's when I copied them over to here. So this way I know. Okay. We got our 2 weight files there on the top. I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm a little out of it today. All right, I'm going to make a space between. You know what? I am missing one. There should be 4 of these here. Oh, yeah, here it is. I just didn't copy it. Way to go, Bauer. Not off to a very good, not off to a very good start here today. 1, 2, 3, 0. There we go. Now we're in good shape. All right, so let's copy that. Get that back over here where we need it. All right. So that's it. And like I said, it just makes it easier to figure out, which number you had assigned where. All right. So 9997 is the number that we're looking for there. So I'll have to do a search here to get myself back down to the layer attributes. All right. And for detail map ID is 9997. All right. Now we need the normal map ID for 1. Okay. And that's 9994. So they don't go in order. So it's not that easy to just say, they go in order. I'll put them in order. And that's not really the way. Unfortunately, it's not the way it works. All right. So height map ID, we have 9995. And then last but not least, we have displacement. All right. It is 99996. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 6. All right. So we're not quite done here yet. We still have to go to the end of this line here, shoot all the way over, and where it says weight map ID. All right. And we want our weight map for this, and that's quadruple nines, 9999. So 9999. Okay, so we're done with the first one there. And if you want, so as not to confuse yourself here, you can delete the ones that you already worked with, right? So you can do that if you want to. All right. All right, so down to the next one here. Again, we need the detail map ID for number 2, which is 9993. All right, normal map, 990. Height map, 991. And then last but not least, our displacement map, 992. Alrighty. And then we are going to go over to our weight map ID, which I happen to know was 998. Alrighty. So we have those all filled in there. Okay. So last but not least, we had this combined layer. All right. So we'll take this combined layer here. We're going to copy it. Go back to our map project. Now here you can just scroll down. You don't have to keep searching. Now the combined layers are in alphabetical order. This is the way that it shows up inside your list. Okay, so if you want, you can go down to where we can put them in alphabetical order, because it will show up, like I said, if you have it out of order. If you're like anal retentive about some things and they have to be in alphabetical order, which I like to have mine in alphabetical order because it just, makes it easier to find these things. By all means, make sure you put it in alphabetical order. If not, it will drive you crazy. All right, so we got cement crack. So this is where I said right here where we can mix and match these if you want. So you can take like a regular concrete, like just you can delete one of these, like say where it says cement cracked, and then you can put in now the one you're looking for here is not other combined layers. You're looking for the single layer, right? So you can find like asphalt crack 01, and you can just substitute one of these for one of the other layers. Now, like I said, it used to be a little bit easier before because we used to have 4 layers that you're working with instead of just 2. But whatever changes they made now with the textures, we're only working with 2. All right, and then of course we have our noise frequency, which you can see that they're all at 2. So, like I said, just stick with the base game, go with 2. If you want to find out the difference that it makes, you can experiment on your own to adjust this noise frequency up or down, and you can find out what you get when you do that. All right. All right. And that is it. Once you have everything copied over, you can just go ahead and save. Now we need to get back over to our base game files. All right. So let's get ourselves back into our base game. And where was I? I was in this Palmer. All right. So we're going to open this up. Now the difference was inside of, or not inside of, but for FS22, we were doing all of this when the editor was open. So you could pretty much grab any one of these weight maps, even if it had something on it. You could copy it over. Now, as long as you didn't color anything new on your map using that texture, all you had to do is save it and you were good to go. It would blank that file out for you. Now, it doesn't work that way. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to grab 2 of these that are blank. All right, so they have to be blank. So you want to copy them and then paste it again right away. Now, it doesn't matter if you copy them out of your project or if, depending on how far you are along in your project, you may have some problems like finding a blank weight map. All right, and in that case, just open it up in paint.net or Photoshop or something like that, and then color it all. Just use like paint bucket or a paintbrush and just paint the whole thing in black, right? Just 000 black. All right. And it's as easy as that. And then just save it as an 8-bit PNG and you're good to go. All right. And then all we're doing is renaming it to whatever we have here in our file name there, which was For the weight maps, did I delete those already? All right, so we got cement cracked 01 and cement cracked 02. All right, so let's name those accordingly. Get into our file explorer here. All right, so we got cement cracked 01, and that's an underscore weight. All right, now make sure you get the spelling correct, because if you don't get the spelling correct, this is not going to work for you. It's not going to find the weight map that it's looking for, and it will screw you up a little bit. Oops, I opened up the file instead of, not sure where it opened on a different monitor. There we go. All right, and then we want to do the same thing here. I'm going to go cement cracked 02 underscore weight dot png. Alrighty, so once you have those two made up, you're good to go. We can just open up our editor, and then we're going to open up our map and test it out and see what we get. All right, let's get over to not the Asia map. Let's find out where we were here. Side of Palmer, map.i3d. It should open fairly quick because it's relatively blank map. There we go. Alrighty, and like I said, get yourself into the texture paint mode. We can scroll down here a little bit, and it is now in alphabetical order, so you can see there is our cement cracked. All right, and there is the cement crack that we pulled out of the Asia map. All right, so really not much to it, right? It's just a little bit tedious because you're having to copy over so many things. All right, just make sure you don't mix up your file IDs, right? So when you give it an ID, that 99999998, write down the list. Find a way to keep that, keep it from mixing everything up. All right, and it's easy to do. It's easy to mix things up. That's why I copied it over. Once I had it copied into my map up here, that's why I copied it over to a blank window, so I didn't have to keep scrolling up and down. One, it's a pain in the butt, and two, it's easy to just mix up your numbers, and then things aren't working quite right inside your map because you goofed up the numbers a little bit. All right, but once you get the hang of it, it's not a problem. You can go into any one of the maps that you want to, pull out any textures, and just mix and match until until your heart's content, right? All right, and that's it. There's really not much more to it than that. Actually, it's not that there is really not. There is not any more to it than that. Now, I do wish that it was, they would bring back the layer manager. So, it was really nice and easy to just do things from within the editor, and you didn't have to back out of the editor and copy things back and forth. It's kind of a pain in the butt, right? So I don't know exactly why we went back to the old way of doing things, but for some reason we did. All right. But I guess it is what it is. Now, the one thing I do need to look at really quickly here, which I didn't research that yet. Let's see if we got enable noise. I do need to look into when you're looking at your textures here. Let me find the layer attribute really quick. And I probably should have done this ahead of time. What I need to look into is the attributes themselves between the color, the softness, the material ID, and the drive cost. I need to look those up and find out where we adjust these attributes. All right, because it doesn't look like it's on the layer itself. Right, it's not part of this attribute. Unless it's, oh, you know what? Maybe that's what it is right there. Okay. All right, so we got what? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many attributes? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Damn it. Maybe it's not that. Oh, maybe it is. Maybe the color is the RGB is probably 3 different colors. All right, got text messages popping up there. Yeah, the color's probably 3. And then 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3. Yep, that's probably what it is. 4, 5, 6. All right, so it looks like these first 3 numbers right here is your RGB value, right? for your color. The fourth number is your softness. This is what I'm guessing. Material ID would be your fifth, so 7. If you look here, right, where asphalt, they have that listed as an asphalt, which makes sense because it's a cement. Now, if we had something different like dirt, that would probably be a 1. So we could even test that theory. We can go down to dirt. All right, so I had dirt in here somewhere. Here's dirt, right? So the next one down, I should have 1 for the fifth number, which I do. They have ones, okay. And then for the 4 is your AI drive cost. Now, like I said, if you're confused about the AI drive cost and you don't know what that is and you don't know what I'm referring to, definitely go back through my videos. I have an entire video on AI drive cost. And then the other one that I have for adding textures to your FS22 map, I break down the layer map and I do explain what the color means, right? The RGBs. And basically what it is the color of the tire tracks. All right. So if you're leaving tracks in dirt or anything like that, it's the color of those tracks. Right. So it's, it could be just try to make the track, in the ballpark of the color of the texture you're working with, but a few shades darker. But like I said, in the end, if you just stick with the base game numbers, that's ultimately what you want to do, and you'll be just fine with that. Alrighty, so what do you think? Not hard, right? It's really not that difficult. The nice thing about, like I said, the layer manager was that you could stay inside of Giants Editor when you did all this. You didn't have to back out. And then all of those layer attributes, right, with the AI drive cost and the material ID and all that stuff, that was also in the layer manager. And it just made things super simple, right? But now, since things are, I guess, a little bit different, since they made the changes that they made, inside of FS25. They had to redo a few things, obviously, and so now our layer manager is no longer there. But we shall survive, I suppose. Who knows? Maybe one day they will surprise us and bring it back. We shall see. Alrighty, but anyhow, for now, that's it. That is how you get your new texture layers into your map project. And with that being said, I'm Bauer Brown, and I will see you on the next one.